And I remember what happened in the aftermath of that. I remember when the Republican leader in the House said that Donald Trump bore responsibility and ought to be censured for his role in that insurrection. I remember when the Republican leader in the Senate said that Trump was practically and morally responsible for that attack, and it was a disgraceful dereliction of duty. Those were the words of Republicans when the events of that day were fresh in their mind, because like everyone else, they'd had to go running out of this building. Thankfully, safe because of your work, Officer Hodges, your work, Harry Dunn.
Folks, you need to hear what Senator Adam Schiff just laid down in the shadow hearing on Trump's outrageous pardons. This isn't just politics. This is about defending the soul of America. Let's watch.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. And thank you for all your leadership of our committee and your relentless pursuit of the rule of law and justice. We are all in your debt. Thank you to the witnesses who are here today for your courage. This is exactly what you need and that we need. And I hope your example will be inspiring to others. I want to just start with a recap of January 6th and everything we have seen since. Just a quick recap for people who are trying to reinvent history, because I was there, as my colleagues were, on January 6th, when hundreds, indeed thousands of people surrounded the Capitol, broke into that building, assaulted police officers, crushed you, Daniel, in that revolving door, desecrated this building. We're hunting for Leader Schumer. We're hunting for Leader Pelosi. I remember the fear of that day. I remember being told to get down on the ground to grab our gas masks. I remember being told that we had to get out. And I remember what happened in the aftermath of that. I remember when the Republican leader in the House said that Donald Trump bore responsibility and ought to be censured for his role in that insurrection. I remember when the Republican leader in the Senate said that Trump was practically and morally responsible for that attack, and it was a disgraceful dereliction of duty. Those were the words of Republicans when the events of that day were fresh in their mind, because like everyone else, they'd had to go running out of this building. Thankfully, safe because of your work, Officer Hodges, your work, Harry Dunn. That's where we were in the immediate aftermath. I remember over the next 2 years that followed, serving on the January 6th committee, bringing in witness after witness to testify about the violent attack that day, to testify about the president's role in it, to testify about the big lie, the efforts around the country to try to overturn a free and fair election. I remember hearing the testimony of brave witnesses like Cassidy Hutchinson, who were within the administration, other brave witnesses like Secretary Raffensperger in Georgia, who refused to lie about an election, put their responsibility to their constituents and the Constitution above that of their party. And I remember the work that the Justice Department did to bring those who made that attack possible to justice. The hundreds of prosecutions that were brought, Mr. Romano and Ms. Levine, by courageous prosecutors like yourselves. And as you pointed out, Mr. Romano, cases where the evidence was overwhelming, where many pleaded guilty, others were convicted by a unanimous jury beyond a reasonable doubt. I remember all of that. I also remember what happened the moment that Donald Trump was sworn into office again, the man who incited that attack. Because the moment he was sworn in, we saw the next chapter of January 6th. We saw the big lie turn into big vengeance. We saw the president pardon thousands, hundreds of violent attackers on police, a total of 1,600 people overnight. We saw the firing of prosecutors who had brought many of those cases. We saw the effort to purge the FBI of agents who were assigned to those cases. We saw the punishing of law firms who represented the special counsel or played other roles in the investigation or prosecution of January 6th. We saw the appointment of the president's criminal defense lawyers to the highest ranks of the Justice Department, and we saw a acting U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, appointed here in the District of Columbia to one of the most important U.S. Attorney's offices in the country, with no experience except for being a stop-the-steal lawyer, except for somebody who said there ought to be, quote, less judgment for somebody who hits a cop. How is it possible that we're even considering someone for U.S. Attorney who says there should be less judgment for someone who hits a cop? I guess what he's really saying is less judgment for somebody who hits a cop who is acting in the service of the president. I think that's really where he's coming from. This is someone who goes beyond what the Justice Department apparently is now represented in court, that they want to pay back the January 6th criminals who had to pay restitution. He wants them paid back. The department wants them paid back. Ed Martin wants reparations, as if somehow the government has some debt to these people who attacked the Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. So that's just a quick nutshell of the 6th and what has followed since. And Mr. Romano, I know you've been in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Justice Department for 15 years. We are grateful for your service. I don't even know where to begin to ask you about the nightmare we're in, except what do you make of a Justice Department now that intervenes in a criminal case in New York involving allegations of serious corruption by a mayor to make that case go away because the mayor is useful to the president on an unrelated policy matter? What do you make of the Justice Department firing a prosecutor who won't falsely assert there's a criminal basis for investigation of an environmental fund because it's unethical to do? What do you make of that Justice Department? Do you even recognize it?
It's hard to know what to say about that, Senator. Those choices were terrible. I fear that they're a signal of more to come. There never should have been that effort to dismiss the case in New York. That was an effort to have the mayor of New York help the president with the enforcement of immigration. That has nothing to do with whether there was a case that was appropriately investigated and prosecuted. The prosecution of public corruption offenses is tremendously important. People who are in positions of power and abuse that power should be held accountable. And I worked in the public integrity section. I was there at the time that my deputy chiefs refused to sign off on that. I was proud of them for doing so. They conveyed to us that they had let Justice Department management know that they were not going to sign that motion to dismiss the case against Mayor Adams. It was awful to see them fired, but we were proud of the action that they took. That is what attorneys in the Justice Department should be doing. I am deeply afraid that the Justice Department is going to be used against the president's enemies and that these are signs of things to come.
Thank you, Senator Schiff.
Let's not rewrite history.
Thank you, Mr.
January
Chairman,
6th
for holding
wasn't
this
a protest. It was a violent
and thank you
insurrection.
for all
I
your
remember
leadership
watching it
for our
live,
committee,
stunned, heartbroken,
and
as rioters
your
stormed the Capitol,
relentless
hunting down
pursuit of
lawmakers,
the rule of
attacking
law and
police
justice.
officers,
We
and
are
trying to
all
stop
in
the
your
peaceful
debt.
transfer of power.
Thank you
That's
to the
not
witnesses who are
patriotism.
here today
That's
for your
fascism in
courage.
action.
This is exactly
Schiff
what you
did
need
what
and
more
I-
leaders
that
need to
we
do,
need.
call out plainly.
And I hope
He
your
reminded
example
us
will
that
be
even
inspiring
Republican
to
leaders like
others.
McCarthy and McConnell once said
I
Trump
wanna
was responsible.
just start with
but now,
a
crickets,
recap
cowards.
of
They've bowed
January
down to the same
6th
man
and
who
everything we
sparked
have
the
seen
violence that nearly
since.
shattered our
Just a
republic.
quick
Schiff talked about his
recap
work
for
on the
people
January
who,
6th committee,
are
a real
trying to
investigation
reinvent
rooted in
history.
facts and testimony. People like
Because
Cassidy Hutchinson
I was
and
there,
Brad
as my
Raffensperger had the
colleagues were
guts
on
to speak
January
up.
6th,
Patriots. They put
when
country over party.
hundreds,
That's what
indeed
real courage
thousands
looks
of
like.
people
But
surrounded
here's where it
the
gets
Capitol,
terrifying. Trump,
broke
back in
into that
office,
building,
goes full dictator mode.
assaulted
Pardons
police
over
officers,
1,600
crushed
people,
you, Daniel,
including
in
violent
that
cop attackers.
revolving
Fires the
door,
prosecutors who brought them to justice.
desecrated
Installs his
this
criminal
building.
defense
We're
team into
hunting
the Department
for
of
Leader
Justice.
Schumer. We're
This is
hunting
not
for
normal. This is not
Leader
okay.
Pelosi.
He appoints Ed
I
Martin,
remember
a
the
stop
fear
the
of
steal
that day. I
lawyer,
remember
as
being
U.S.
told to
attorney in
get
D.C.
down on the
A man who
ground to
literally
grab our
said
gas masks.
we should go easier
I
on
remember
people who
being
attack
told that we
cops.
had to get
Think about
out.
that. What message does that send?
And
That
I
if you
remember
serve the
what
president's
happened in the
personal
aftermath
interests,
of that.
you're above the law? That's not
I
law and
remember
order.
when the
That's
Republican
authoritarianism.
leader
That's
in
the
the
exact
House
kind of political
said
weaponization
that
of the
Donald
justice
Trump
system
bore
Trump accused others
responsibility
of
and
doing.
ought to be
And now he's doing it
censured
in broad
for his
daylight.
role
You want to talk about abuse of
in
power?
that
This is
insurrection.
it.
I
This is the
remember when the
template for a
Republican
corrupt,
leader in the
lawless
Senate
regime. Even
said
DOJ
that
veterans
Trump
like
was
Mr. Romano
practically
are
and
warning
morally
us. The justice
responsible for
system
that
is being
attack, and it was a
hijacked. Public corruption
disgraceful
cases dropped because a mayor was
dereliction of
useful
duty.
to
Those
Trump on
were the
immigration.
words of
Prosecutors fired
Republicans
for refusing to lie.
when the
That's not
events
just
of that day
unethical.
were
That's a
fresh in their
breakdown of
mind
our
because,
democratic
like everyone
institutions.
else,
Listen, I love
they've
this
had to
country.
go running
I love
out
the
of this
Constitution.
building.
That's why this terrifies me. You don't defend
Thankfully,
freedom by cheering on a
safe
strong man
because
who
of
pardons
your
criminals,
work,
punishes
Dr.
truth
Hodges,
tellers,
your
and
work,
turns the
Harry
DOJ
Dunn.
into his personal protection squad. You
That's
defend
where we were
freedom
in
by
the immediate
demanding
aftermath.
accountability, no matter
I
who's in
remember
power.
over the
So
next
thank
2
you,
years that
Senator
followed,
Schiff, for speaking the truth,
serving on
for
the
standing up
January
for
6th
democracy.
committee,
The rest of
bringing in
us,
witness
we need to
after
stay loud,
witness
stay
to
active,
testify
stay patriotic,
about
because
the
silence
violent
right now,
attack that
that's
day,
surrender.
to testify about the